Hey Cardinals, today I'm going to read you a story about acts of kindness, the little things, by Christian Trimmer, and art is by Kaylani Juanita. A little girl who much preferred the look of 3 pigtails to 2, and who loved the way wet sand squished between her toes, walked down the dock the day after a mighty storm. There on the beach were thousands of sea stars washed ashore by the violent waves. She quickly picked up another and another and another, ushering each back into the safety of the water. Just then, an old man who had the habit of misplacing his glasses, and who also loved the way wet sand squished between his toes, came by. "What are you doing, little girl?" he asked. "What do you mean, what am I doing?" shouted the girl who liked 3 pigtails and sand between her toes. She had a strong sense of self. "I'm saving these sea stars." I was. The old man was taken aback. "It's just, there are so many sea stars. What's the point? You won't be able to save them all." "Of course I can't save them all," replied the little girl. She carefully tossed another sea star into the ocean. "But I saved that one, didn't I?" The old man had to admit the little girl had a point. He picked up a sea star and placed it back in the water. Later that day, the old man headed to the animal shelter with his grandson, who liked butter on his noodles and brightly colored shoelaces. "What are we doing here, Grandpa?" asked the little boy. "I'm going to rescue a dog," the old man replied. The boy looked around. There were so many animals who needed rescuing after the storm. "Taking home one dog isn't going to make that much of a difference," he said. "That may be so," his grandpa replied, "but it sure will make a difference to this little guy, don't you think?" The little boy had to admit his grandpa had a point. The next day, after a lunch of buttered noodles, the boy headed to his neighbor's house. There lived an elderly lady who had once been a professional dancer and who also loved butterflies. "I'm here to clean up your garden," the little boy said to the elderly lady. The storm had torn up her flower beds and tossed garbage all over her yard. "That would be lovely," replied the elderly lady, doing a graceful plie. That's a dance move. As the little boy worked, a teenager who listened to classical music very loudly on her headphones and who just couldn't be bothered happened by. "Hey, kid," she said, taking off her headphones. "What are you doing?" "I'm cleaning up this lady's yard," he replied. "Look around, kid. The storm messed up the whole block. What's the point of cleaning one yard?" asked the teenager, even though the kid was doing a good job. Not that she'd ever say that to him. The other elderly lady chimed in. "This little boy has done more than just clean my yard, young lady," she said. "He has lifted my spirits. You could learn a thing or two from him." The elderly lady had a point, though the teenager would never admit that out loud. Still, she gave the woman a nod and the little boy a high five. The next morning, the teenager packed an extra lunch and gave it to the homeless man outside the coffee shop, even though she knew there were many in need of a meal. Then a little girl with one missing front tooth and another wiggly one took all the money she had received from the tooth fairy and gave it to a charity, and she wiggled the other tooth to help it along. The little girl's mom, who made scrumptious cupcakes, gooey brownies, and mouth-watering cookies, along with some equally delicious gluten-free options, quickly organized a fundraiser, which inspired a young man with a great sense of style and real acting chops to volunteer at school, which moved a whole class of students to donate their time to fix up a house that had been damaged by the storms, which led to more ideas, more generosity, and more kindness, and more action. Not long after that, another storm moved through the town. The next morning, the little girl with 3 pigtails raced down to the end of the dock, only to find everyone was helping. The little girl walked up to the old man and gently tapped him on the shoulder. "Now, do you get it?" she asked. The old man did. The end.